Hello, everybody. It's Sunday, January 30th, 2011, and I'm Red Blanchard, and here's what I'm thinking about today. I got to thinking about high school and the difference between high schools in different parts of the country. I guess I was kind of lucky because in my day, I've moved maybe a total of 25 to 30 times. But one of the main moves was right in the middle of high school. I was going to high school in San Fernando, California, at San Fernando High School, and then in the sophomore year, which they called it the ninth grade, but in California it was the ninth grade. At the end of that year, it happened to be 1935, our whole family moved to Massachusetts, and there they had the four-year high school, so they called it the sophomore year. Anyway, I had 3 more years of high school to go in Massachusetts, and the first 3 years, including junior high school, in California. Well, here's what I'd like to mention about the difference. It's very strange they had rules completely different in the two parts of the country. In California, for example, a lot of the women teachers were married. Well, in Massachusetts, they had a rule at that time based on the old, what they called blue laws, and a female teacher could not be married. So all the teachers were Miss So-and-so. But out in California, all the teachers that wanted to be married were married, and plenty of them were. Now, one other thing we had in San Fernando High School that you would never find in Massachusetts was earthquakes. So one year, about 1933, they had a big earthquake called the Long Beach earthquake. That's about 30 miles away from San Fernando, but even so, the school building was heavily damaged. They closed their school down for 3 months. We stayed home from school for 3 months while they worked on rebuilding the school buildings from the earthquake. One more thing about those buildings, by the way, at that time, nobody had air conditioning. And sometimes San Fernando was a very hot place. It could go well over 100 degrees. And you didn't hear anybody complaining and saying, oh, why isn't the air conditioning working? And staying home because it's hot. We went to school, the windows were wide open, the air was over 100 degrees, and that's the way it was. We were used to that. We thought nothing of it. And of course today, the kids are all spoiled. If they don't have air conditioning, they close down the school and call it a big emergency. Okay, one more thing that San Fernando had was quite a musical program. They actually had 3 bands and 3 orchestras, junior, senior, and elementary in both cases. The band leader's name was a Mr. Tingle, believe it or not. And I didn't play in the band because I played in the orchestra. The orchestra was 3 of them too, junior, senior, and elementary. And the orchestra teacher was named Miss Dickey, Dorothy M. Dickey. And she was my inspiration for getting into showbiz and music. She always recognized that I had a musical ear, and she thought I should become a musician. Well, as it turned out, we moved away in the middle of that situation at the end of the sophomore year, the 9th grade. And when I told Miss Dickey we're moving back to Massachusetts, she said, I was afraid of something like that. She said, I was preparing to make sure that you got a wonderful musical education. She was going to see that I got scholarships and everything. Well, none of that ever happened. We moved back to Massachusetts, and I never saw Miss Dickey again. She was a very wonderful teacher, not much older than the kids either. I would say she was in her middle 20s or maybe up to 30 at the most. Anyway, so much for the school orchestras. We did put on a lot of school plays there, too. They had quite a program of extracurricular activities, and they put on many plays. And they put on, one of the things I remember especially is HMS Pinafore by Gilbert and Sullivan. And we sat through all the rehearsals. The musicians, the band, the orchestra played the music of Gilbert and Sullivan, and I actually learned all the music by heart, and some of the words even. And I remember one of the things I played the trombone most of the time, but at the particular time they did the Pinafore, they didn't have a drummer, so I said, okay, I'll play the drums, and I did. And I played the drums, and at one point in the middle of Pinafore, there's a one-note drum solo, and everybody got a big laugh out of it, and I got a big laugh out of doing it. And the song is, all these sailors on board the ship were going to sneak ashore, and when the captain was asleep, and they would sneak off the boat, and that's part of the story. Well, during the middle of the sneaking away, they had this song, silently on tiptoe stealing, to the shore we softly go, and so on and so on. All of a sudden they had a big bang on the drum, and everybody said, silent B, why what was that? And there's something about it was the cat, and then it was the cat. Yes, yes, it was the cat. Well, when I hit that drum solo, bang, it woke up the captain, and of course everybody got a big laugh out of it, and that was my moment of fame in that one. We also performed Ravel's Bolero, and in that the drum starts off and has this beat that goes for 17 minutes without stopping, the same beat. You know Ravel's Bolero. Well, I played the drum on that one too. So that was my career at San Fernando High School. And, one more thing about that. My mother thought that French was the way to go. Learn French, it's the language of diplomacy. So I did sign up for French classes, and after 3 weeks of French, that's when the earthquake hit. So out of school for 3 months, when I came back, I dropped French. I never took French again, and it's just as well because French is no longer the language of diplomacy. English is, I already know that. Okay, so at the end of the school year, we decided to move the whole family back to Massachusetts. Well, back there, everything was different. They had, for one thing, the school building was 3 stories high. I've shown pictures of that before. Maybe I'll pop in a few pictures of the various schools during the course of this. Anyway, we get back to Massachusetts, to Gardner High School, and that's, of course, the town I was born in. So I felt like I more or less belonged there, but I talked funny to the other kids. They all had the New England accent, and I didn't. Anyway, they called me sun-kissed. I probably mentioned this in other dissertations. They called me sun-kissed because I was from California. And of course, the sun-kissed oranges were well known back there. In Massachusetts, they have, in the grocery stores, they have 2 orange counters. One says Florida, the other one says California. And the California oranges cost more than the Florida oranges. Now, that's back then when I was in high school. I don't know what it is today. They may not even have any California oranges now, because actually they don't grow as many out here now as they used to. The whole San Fernando Valley was full of oranges, orange trees, and so was most of Southern California, but they've all cut them out and put in housing developments and malls and things of that nature. But Florida, as I understand, still grows plenty of oranges. Now, in my backyard here in California, I've got several orange trees, and I get all the free oranges and lemons I want. I don't get the lemons off an orange tree, and I get a lemon tree too. Okay, so anyway, back in Gardner High School, they had the 3-story building, like I mentioned. They also had a basement with a boiler room in it, and I've told about that in other stories. So I had to get used to a completely different atmosphere. They also did not have a school orchestra. They had a band, and that was it, one band. And the band leader was named John Redmond. I believe he was Scotch. He had some kind of an accent. And I played the trombone in that band for the rest of my high school career. And actually, I went and played in the dance orchestra on the side, even while I was still in high school and a little bit after high school, too. Well, one of the things about the school in Gardner, Mass, was that the teachers, all the women teachers were single, as I mentioned before, but they were long-term teachers. Some of the same teachers were there that taught my mother when she went to that same high school, and my father went there too. The whole family went to Gardner High School, and my mother was interested in music too, and she played the piano and taught after she grew up, and she taught piano and voice for the rest of her life. And they, as I mentioned before, they had this wonderful piano in the school auditorium, a Chickering made in Boston, My mother played on that same piano, and so did I. Well, the main difference between the two high schools, as I mentioned, is all that music program and everything. And then, of course, California had the hot weather and the earthquakes, and Massachusetts had the snow and the furnace in the boiler room and all kinds of things like that. We lived right across the street from a lake that froze over solid. That would never happen in California. So moving from one end of the country to the other is, you could call it a culture shock in a way, but I enjoyed it. All of my family, my three younger brothers, we all enjoyed it. The only thing, we never got used to the cold weather and the snow, and that's the way it is. Anyway, I guess that's about it for this morning. It's a Sunday morning here in California. I'm sitting here in my home studio all by myself, and in the background as I do this, I got a blank green background, and I'm going to be popping in various pictures throughout this. I don't know what I'm going to put in yet, but whatever I talked about, I'll try to find a picture to go with it. And until the next time, I'm Red Blanchard, and I say, so long until tomorrow.